Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Aura News broadcast for our daily English news edition. I'm Daniel Cook, your host, Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. It has been announced that the value-added tax will soon be administered in cooperation with the private sector. The collection of the VAT will be given as a concession in the form of a public and private partnership for a period of 10 years. The concession will be given with an open international tender, which is intended to increase the revenue from the VAT. This idea was suggested by a company called M-Pulse back in 2014, after which a study was conducted by a team set up by the government. The private company that wins the concession will create an electronic system to gather information on the sales and purchases in real time. It will track products from the moment of production until they are purchased by the consumers. The system will identify and reduce abuse of the VAT system, and the private company is expected to invest around 9.5 million euro in developing and installing the system. There are two different ways that the private company will benefit from the concession. If the revenue from the VAT increases to the annual goal of 11%, the company will receive a percentage of the revenue that is generated. If the goal of 11% is not met, the government will pay the company 1/10 of its initial investment per year, an estimated 957,000 euro. The VAT is one of the primary revenue contributors to the state budget, and currently it brings in about 30 billion lek per year. Potentially, the goal of 11% could be reached by the current tax administration, and so the success of the concession will be measured by whether this goal can be passed by a private company. The Socialist Movement for Integration has reacted to a recent IMF report on financial risk in Albania. The Secretary General Luan Rama said today that the government should be taking this report even more seriously than the Venice recommendations. He demanded that the government read the report thoroughly and responsibly. "I call the government to seriously reflect on this report," he said. "They should read the report as it is written, and it should be viewed even more seriously than the Venice recommendations." The International Monetary Fund expresses concern in the report about the frequent reviews of the state budget, saying that the main sources of financial instability in Albania are the property compensation laws, the bad loans, and the concessions. The report was ironically brought to public attention on the very same day that the Ministry of Finance announced that the VAT will be given as a concession to a private company. Luan Rama continued, "The IMF warning about financial risk is very important, and responsible reflection is needed." The report comments on fiscal transparency, indicating that 10 out of the 36 IMF recommendations for fiscal transparency are not being followed. Concessions are another area of concern, according to the report. For the SMI, partnership between the public and private sector is an important element for the development of the country, but the private companies must also invest and not only benefit from this arrangement, said the SMI General Secretary. The Minister of Energy has announced that several concession agreements in the hydrocarbon sector are going to be renegotiated. The minister spoke today at the presentation of a transparency initiative for the extractive industry in 2013 and 2014. According to the report, the extractive industry contributed approximately 4% of the state budget during those years, despite the fact that the prices of fuel and minerals decreased. Despite the adverse prices, the high production level of this industry contributed 12.9 billion lek to the budget, or 3.9% of the total revenue. The Minister of Energy announced that, among others, the contract with Bankers Petroleum will be renegotiated. A number of new projects were presented today at the Conference of Donors in Tirana. Mayor Veliaj highlighted the need for funding in order to complete all of the ongoing projects, saying that there are currently 112 projects that have not been finished yet because funds are lacking. He asked for the help of the donors in completing these projects. Specifically, he asked for two investments that he considers to be the highest priority for the city: the modernization of urban transport and providing shelter for the Roma community. Mayor Veliaj had this to say: "We have had our debates over the public transportation in Tirana. My dream as the mayor is that even the rich will use the public transportation." Also present at the conference, the EU Ambassador Romana Vlahutin spoke about the need for more reliable water supply and cleaner streets in the capital. Prime Minister Rama also spoke, asking the international partners to help bring the Albanians' dream into reality by accelerating the path to integration. A number of people who were dismissed from the public administration held a protest outside during the conference. The Association of Builders has publicly announced their rejection of the increase of the infrastructure tax in the construction sector. In a public statement today, the association announced that they will pursue every legal recourse at their disposal to repeal the tax increase. They say that the tax has increased from 2 to 4% of the cost of construction to 4 to 8% of the actual selling price of a finished building. They estimate that the tax will force them to increase the price of the houses they build by 150 to 250 euro per square meter. On top of that, the new legal changes demand that the builders pay this tax within 5 days of receiving a construction permit. The association has announced that they see this tax as a fine or a penalty that is being imposed on them, and that they will not rest until it is removed. The second trilateral meeting between Albania, Serbia, and Italy was held today in Tirana. The meeting was concluded with a joint press conference in which the three foreign ministers highlighted the importance of cooperation in regional projects and against Islamic radicalism. The Italian foreign minister distanced himself from some recent articles in the Italian media, which have indicated that Albania is a source of Muslim extremism. He said, "The concern about radicalism and foreign fighters is a joint concern. It is a subject on which our governments are committed to adopting precautionary measures. It is a reality to which none of us are immune. Albania is a country where people of different beliefs live together in peace, and they want to fight extremism. There are countries contributing fighters to the foreign conflicts, but that is not the case in Albania and Serbia," said the Italian foreign minister. Minister Bushati repeated Albania's commitment to the fight against extremism, and the Serbian foreign minister asked for a unified reaction against extremism from the EU. He also spoke about the influx of refugees from the conflict. His statements were supported by the Italian minister, who also spoke in favor of Albania's path toward the EU. Minister Bushati was asked about the possibility of opening negotiations, to which he made the following reply. "I believe that if we realize the tasks that we have undertaken, especially the justice reform, we can receive a clear recommendation from the EU to start negotiations for EU membership." The next trilateral meeting will be held this coming autumn in Belgrade. The Prosecutor General reacted today to a story that was recently reported by the media in Italy and the UK, that Albanian weapons are being sent to Montenegro. Several days ago, the Italian television channel Corriere della Sera reported that firearms from Shkodra were being transported to Montenegro. The report said that the guns were intended for mafia groups and possibly even ISIS militants involved in terrorist activities in Europe. Meanwhile, the British newspaper Daily Mirror wrote about a police operation in 2014 in Lazarat, calling it the first police intervention in this village. The Daily Mirror indicated that the marijuana plots in Lazarat were under the control of ISIS, which distributes the narcotics in the European countries. The Albanian Prosecutor General reacted to these stories today, saying that they seriously damage the image of the country in the eyes of the international partners. He said that the residents of Lazarat were involved in cultivating narcotics, but that they never committed any other criminal offense that might be related to terrorism. Mr. Lala indicated that the problem is still ongoing in Gjiknuri, but that it's under surveillance and being investigated. That's the end of our edition for this evening. Thank you for watching, and please join us again at 6 p.m. tomorrow for more news in English. Thanks, and have a great night.